Highland Park parade shooting trial. The trial of Robert Crimo III was set to begin today. We have just learned that Crimo is changing his plea to guilty. Christian Picos is live at the Lake County Courthouse in Waukegan with what we know. Christian.
Hey, Terrell, yeah, major news coming out of the Lake County Courthouse here in Waukegan. Just minutes into the first day, really, of his trial, when we were expecting opening statements to begin, Robert Crimo III changed his 15 or so this morning. Crimo walked in. He was wearing a suit and tie this morning. His attorneys said they wanted to change the plea. She asked him how old he was, 24, asked if he was on any sort of medications now or previously. He said no. She asked if he had spoken with his attorneys. She said yes. Did you go over the facts? Also acknowledged yes. Then they discussed what might happen next. They talked about any sort of witness testimony that could be heard in court. He acknowledged all of that. And then she said, do you understand that you are entering this plea? If you go forward, probation department will interview for what's called a pre-sentence investigation, which will then be followed by a sentencing hearing, which will take place. Then she really discussed the big part of this. She talked about the life sentences that he's going to be facing, 7 potential natural life sentences without the ability of parole. And then she talked about the sentences that are associated with the attempted murder charges, which each range from 26 to 56 years in prison. He acknowledged all of that as well. And then she went on to say, you know, you don't have to plead guilty. You can have a trial. She asked him, were you forced to make this plea? Were you forced to plead guilty? He said, no. Again, she said, is this what you want to do? He said, yes. So a major change in this case right now here at the Lake County Courthouse. Nothing that any of us really saw coming this morning. But Terrell, lots of news coming out this morning here at the Lake County Courthouse in Waukegan. We do know that Robert Crimo's father did enter the courtroom a little bit earlier this morning as well. His mother was there and at one point spoke up during that hearing, but we weren't able to make out what she said. The judge actually called her up and said that, ma'am, if you want to stay in the courtroom, you have to be quiet. She went and sat back down right there. But again, a bombshell moment here at the Lake County Courthouse. Robert Crimo III pleading guilty to all 69 counts that he was facing.
Christian, we know that, of course, you were in the courtroom. Witnesses, victims, their families, they were also in the courtroom, people that we were expecting to hear and see testify. What was their reaction? Did you hear anything? What was the courtroom like during this time and during this process?
So, Terrell, I was actually in the overflow courtroom. Me and a number of other reporters were watching this, all of this unfold basically through Zoom on a monitor out there. So it was hard to make out any sort of like reaction that was happening. But even amongst all of us reporters, obviously this was something that none of us saw coming whatsoever. We expected the trial just to begin with opening statements earlier this morning. But again, this was something that no one saw coming this morning.
Yeah. And any idea, Christian, what happens now? What happens next, even at the courthouse within the next couple of hours or so?
Well, you know, given what happened, I'd assume that we'd hear from the Lake County State's Attorney at some point today, given Crimo now pleading guilty to all 69 counts. I'm curious if there's some sort of deliberation between Crimo's defense attorneys and prosecutors about the decision for Crimo to plead guilty this morning. So hopefully we'll hear from the Lake County State's Attorney at some point this morning, but a major moment in this trial. Of course, this happened almost 3 years ago. Hard to believe. I was there that day on July 4th, 2022, when those gunshots rang out during the 4th of July parade in Highland Park. As I mentioned that day, you know, I grew up in that area, so it was totally surreal to see all of those events unfolding at that time. And since then, it's been so difficult for this community to move forward, to grieve, just given the trauma that was inflicted on all of them because of what happened that day. You know, it's changed the way that Highland Park views the 4th of July, commemorates that day. They've tried to heal together, to move forward together. So I'm so curious just to hear from a lot of the victims of this parade shooting who were here today, who plan to testify. We know that this morning, I think 48 of the Highland Park shooting survivors plan to testify during this trial, and I'm willing to bet for a lot of them they were I'm sure nervous. It was a series of emotions that they are working through, but I'm also willing to bet that a lot of them really wanted to share their experiences and how it's impacted them over the past almost 3 years now. So Terrell, lots to process here in Lake County in Waukegan. I'm still processing it myself, to be honest with you. But hopefully we'll hear from the Lake County State's attorney at some point today, along with Crimo's defense attorneys as well.
Christian Picos in Waukegan. Christian, really appreciate you being there. I know you'll keep us posted. We'll have another update with Christian coming up on the news at 11. So another surprise here, similar to the surprise when we learned that Crimo was not accepting a plea deal in the first place and that this was going to trial. Now a surprise today that he plans to plead guilty. Hoping to hear from the Lake County State's attorney to get an update on next steps. Also, Gil Sofer joining us in our 11 o'clock hours of news and our 11 o'clock hour of news to give us some insight on where this case potentially goes next. Streaming coverage then and now. We'll keep you posted on abc7chicago.com and as you're watching on air as well. We will send you back to our stream.
This has been an ABC7